and he asked me my motivation, and I said it's because I want to be successful.
Okay.
You know, and then when he left, I didn't have the heart to tell him it's because I want to fire my ex. Once I become the CEO, I'm like, you're fired.
Welcome to the podCARst. I'm your host, Ron Burgundy, and today's guest is the funny and insightful comedian, Joe White. There's something incredibly wholesome about Joe's brand of humour. He mostly draws on stories of his family's immigration to Australia in his teens. They were refugees from Sudan living in extreme poverty. His dad was an abusive alcoholic who left his brave mum to fend for Joe and his 5 other siblings. What I love about today's podcast is how the conversation flows so naturally from Joe's incredibly tough upbringing to present day, where we share our stories of past and current relationships and future exciting ambitions. I feel like today's episode has a little something for everyone. Enjoy. Hey man, how you doing?
Good, man. You?
I'm good. I'm sorry I'm so late, my man.
Right, it's so chilly out there.
Do you know you were my very last passenger before we went into lockdown?
Really?
Last year in March.
Yeah, I do remember coming in the Uber, yeah.
Do you remember much of that trip?
Yeah, I do. Man,
Yeah.
I had a few drinks that night as well.
No.
Yeah. I was
know.
like, oh, this is not the best time to be in Darren's Uber. As soon as I got in, first thing, I was just like, oh, this Uber seems pretty cool. I mean, this guy really loves his job, you know? He's trying to keep the happy vibe going on with the lights and everything. And I just kept thinking, if this was in Bali and I was on mushrooms, I'd be having the best time in this Uber right now, right? I wouldn't even be talking to you. I'll just be going, And then when you said, oh, you're not Joe White by any chance, are you? I was like, oh, cool, we might have met before. And then when you said Darren, I was like, okay, I'm in a car, there's green lights, Darren... Uber, I was like, oh my god, I put 1 and 2 together.
Small world.
It's crazy.
Darren from Audio Production here. Fun fact, Joe White was my very last passenger before the first lockdown in Melbourne last year. The trip was completely unplanned. He just randomly got into my car at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and I was like, hold on a second. I know you. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. Back to the podcast. You moved here when you were 11.
11.
Now, I know bits and pieces of your story.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty fucking good story, or at least
Thanks,
it's a pretty
man.
fucking interesting story and
Yeah.
impressive story. And one of the
Thanks,
things
man.
that you said in that interview with Michael, my mate, it was that hardships lead to comedy. There was this one line that I was like, I've never related to anything more. And that hardships, it's subjective, obviously. I think your hardships are considerably different and probably harder than the hardships I would refer to in my life. But it's still this adversity thing that can lead to, I don't know what, deflecting with humor or
So
or using it as a coping mechanism.
Yes. Coping and also defense mechanism. And also just using it in, not necessarily in adversities, but just in anything, anything that, if I'm in a weird situation where it's really awkward, I'll start taking the piss out of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So,
I've made jokes at funerals,
yeah.
Where I've had to speak and I'm like, this is so sad and I feel like I'm going to break down right now and cry. I'm like, okay, and then I won't even think about it. It's just instantly we're just laughing, but we're laughing with and we're crying at the same. Or you're hoping they're laughing, but they could be going, "This is the
This fucker making jokes." Do you know? Has it always been like that, or did you get it from somebody in your family, or
dude, I've it's always been like that, but in my head, until I felt comfortable enough to express it out.
Wow. Okay.
When you feel like it's safe to do it now, then you do it. But man, where I come from, as an Ethiopian born in Sudan, the environment we're raised in, not only is there racism there amongst Africans in Sudan between different tribes and ethnicities, but there's also classism, right?
Okay.
There's colorism. And with classism, that we were the bottom class.
Okay.
And a lot of Ethiopians flee to Sudan for safety. Sometimes when there's civil war that breaks out in Ethiopia, and that's happening right now as well. So when we were in Sudan, people would be like, "Oh, these Ethiopians, they're not Sudanese." Also, they're poor, and it's a single mom and 6 children. So we were really vulnerable, and it was open season on us. In Sudan, the poor is so far away from the middle class.
Okay.
And the middle class is so far away from the rich.
Gotcha.
Right?
Okay.
So it's like when you're poor, you're poor.
Okay.
Right? Like I've got holes in my clothes, poor.
Okay.
I've got no food, poor. I've got no roof over my head, poor.
Okay.
Man, and some people like would sell their body to get food, right?
Okay.
So when you're poor, you're poor. But then when you're a single mum and 6 children, and you know, and to survive, you're exposed to everything. People will just try to take advantage of you in any way they see fit. There's some good people there that want to help as well, but the environment is not safe, you know. And so we didn't speak a lot because we're too busy trying to go this way and that way and trying to maneuver so that we're safe.
Okay.
You know, it's very hard to joke, and when I did, it would be like in private.
To your family?
To my family.
Okay.
Or even just with myself.
Sure.
And I'll just have a giggle to myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you have an imaginary friend?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did have an imaginary friend, you know?
What
It's so weird, man.
What was his name?
Joe White. No.
Oh, yeah.
No,
that would make sense.
No name. Just like you just have an imaginary friend that you talk to.
Fair.
Right?
Okay.
But his name would be my name.
Okay.
But it's just like, that's so weird, man. No one's ever asked me and I've never answered it, you know? But I did have an imaginary friend.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty common, and I've
Don't
heard.
tell anyone.
No, fuck. No, but like I've come across that a lot, maybe in different contexts, because obviously, like the context of your story is so extreme. Like even the thing about how like you used to go to sleep like with rope tied in between you and your mum and your sisters. That is, nobody at least in Melbourne or like in Australia, I feel like, would be able to get that. It's like, oh, I can't understand it, but I don't get it. Darren from Audio Production here. Joe's mum and his siblings were homeless. They were living in extreme poverty in Sudan. When they went to sleep at night, Joe's mum would use rope to tie 3 of her kids to her on her left and 3 of her other kids to her on her right. The plan was that if somebody attempts to kidnap any of them throughout the night, they'd all wake up and attack at once. And this actually played out. On one occasion, they fought off a kidnapper who attempted to kidnap Joe's sister. Do you remember a lot of that, or as a coping mechanism have you forgotten?
No, I remember it. And I make it my business, I guess, not to forget. Because then you start to underappreciate what you have here.
Yeah, wow.
And you start to behave in different way. You start, I don't know, not even, is the word spoiled? Not even spoiled, but more like ungrateful.
Entitled a
lot, you know?
One thing I think I notice a lot here, and I would put myself in this bucket, is like, entitled, maybe it sort of relates to it, but it's more just like not really realizing how good you've got it when you compare it to like extremes of what you've grown up with.
Yeah, if you forget, you don't take advantage of the opportunities you have here. But if you don't forget, you're like, man, I've come from a place that's like this. Now I'm here.
Yeah.
It's like this little adversity is not a big problem. It's like, oh man, I can't afford to pay rent this week, but hey, doesn't matter because at least I've got a roof over my head.
Sure.
And somehow someone will work it out.
Yeah.
But I've been in worse situations before. And then if it's like everything is going sweet here, then you go, okay, cool. How can I do more? How can I make like more of this opportunity that I've been given, you know? If not make something of myself here and impact here, but it's like, how do I take what I have here and impact back there? You know, not just escape or leave and then go, so long, suckers. I hate like, that, man.
Really?
I always want to, and I have so much love for people who get out of their adversity, but then turn around and give back and help someone else.
Okay.
And that's in any situation, you know. If you go through something and you overcome it and you're on top of it now, turn around and help the next person that's going through it, because there's always someone going through it.
It's like almost like it's like your duty.
Yeah.
I didn't have an imaginary friend per se, but I also like spoke to myself.
Yeah.
Almost like in a way of like, well, first and foremost reassuring, but then like, yeah, cracking jokes to yourself to brighten. Can I drive through here? I feel like I can't. to brighten yourself up. For a bit of context, like, my thing at home was my parents, like, hated each other. We immigrated from South Africa when I was 6. My parents' relationship wasn't great already. And then it was considerably bad once we moved over. It was just like a change of lifestyle with an already not so strong marriage. And then it had like adverse effects on, like, I got an older brother and an older sister. And there was just like a lot of arguing in my family and at home up until my dad moved out when I was like 12. I actually don't remember a lot of it because I hated it so much, and that's like a coping mechanism when you deal with trauma. It's forgetting stuff. So yeah, there was like these periods where I'm like, you know, making myself feel better because I don't really know how else to do it. Now, I'm not comparing it to the extremes of yours. I'll make that very clear. But the overall, like, outcome of it all was I was a goody-goody at school. I wasn't, like, I had these jokes, but I never shared them. My family thought I was really funny because I was the comedic, like, take people's minds off the argument. I'd make them laugh. Yeah. But I didn't, I wasn't that person at school. It was only when I finished school that I felt a little bit more comfortable to be myself and come out and just, like, be a little bit more goofy. But there are so many, like, parallels, it seems, in that, like, train of thought of using comedy to kind of, like, just deal with your situation. Yeah. And it's beautiful.
It's beautiful, man. Once you take the piss out of something that's, like, scaring you or something that's embarrassing that you've done, then you've sort of taken the power away from it. Yes. You know? When you talk about it, you share it, and you're open about it, it's like, and there's books and stuff that state that is one way to deal with shame, you know? Right. My comedy, a lot of it comes from my personal story, right? And my personal story is what we experienced in Sudan mainly, and it's to do with, you know, the challenges my mom faced when we were there. Right. And some of it is, you know, when you're working on it in your head before you say it, you can go, I usually go, I probably won't be able to tell that story because it's a bit dark. Okay. But there's this one story that I'm trying to work out, and it's like, how do I tell it? Because if it's too dark, what happens is people go, and it's too hard to make them laugh now because they're actually really sad for you, right? So it's like, how do you open up but inject some comedy in there so that A, you get to open up, but B, there's laughs in there because that's what they're paid for. You know, they're paid to laugh, but at the same time, they'll be captivated with your story. So I want to captivate, but I want to make them laugh. I don't want to make them sad, and that's it. Sure.
Do you find that, like, because the stories are so, it's like just different to where you're hanging out now, you find it hard to relate to people on, like, an intimate level? Or do you then realize that you have to perhaps hang out with other people that have been in your situations or from the same places?
I prefer not to hang out with people who have been in the same situation.
Really?
It's just too dark, man. I enjoy being happy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't mind sharing my story if I feel that it will inspire, shed some light, and help someone from a different world understand what not only myself, but my story is, like, you know, shared with nearly every single friend of mine who's an immigrant has gone through the same thing I've gone through, right? But they're just not as confident as talking about it, or they don't have the platform to speak about it, or they don't know how to speak about it. And so, you know, when I do it and people go, wow, you know, that's crazy that you went through it. I'm like, yeah, it's crazy for someone who is from a different world, but there's many who are friends of mine here who have gone through it. And so we don't just, like, I tell it again and again and again, only if I feel that, you know, it creates a positive impact by being shared.
Fair enough.
But otherwise, it's too depressing, man. It's too sad, you know?
Fair enough.
They'll be like, oh, here comes Joe. All right. Yeah. Don't ask him about his past.
Fair enough. And, like, look, it sounds like...
birthday party.
But it sounds like you've processed it. You don't need other people to process it as well. It's like, as long as you've been able to, like... Have you ever seeked out therapy? Or
no, I haven't, but I want to.
Okay.
But I feel that comedy is very, therapeutic. So
Yes.
I'm doing well, I reckon, in dealing with it and talking about it because of comedy. If it wasn't for comedy, I don't know how I'd be, you know?
Is it comedy or is it the writing part? So the reason why I asked that is because end of, we had the 100-something day lockdown in Melbourne last year, and it fucked with my head quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I had wanted to see a therapist for maybe like 2 or 3 years to talk about like my parents' divorce and like how that might affect my future relationships.
Yeah.
But I've always put it off, you put it on the back burner. It's like, it's a whole thing. And then after I think the government said, oh, you can get more like free therapy sessions.
Yeah.
As a Jew, that's what we do, free.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Discount.
Yeah, pretty much. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, I think they would say you could, like, the first 10 would be free. I'm like, that's a bargain.
Yeah.
I'll do it. So I started seeing a therapist only at the beginning of my holiday because I was completely burnt out. And I'm like, all right, I got the time. And what I realized with therapy, I mean, I like my therapist, but what I realized with it is the hour that I see him a week, it's not, the therapy doesn't happen then. The therapy happens afterwards when I'm like thinking about the stuff we've spoken about and type it out.
Yeah.
And that like journaling process really makes me think and like deconstruct stuff. And I feel like comedy, you say comedy, but it is the writing of the comedy, isn't it?
Well, when you write it, you're there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's talking about it, and then there's really getting into it.
Yeah.
And if it's very traumatic, then you start to feel the emotions associated with it as well. But with me, when I do write it, yes, it does, because I have to first I tell the story how exactly it happened, right?
Yeah.
And then I try to inject some humor into it from different perspective. But it's telling the story how it exactly happened and then adding tags to make people laugh is the whole product itself, So when you do tell the story exactly how it happened, you're doing it on purpose so that they can be captivated and be on this emotional journey with you. And then when you add the tags, they appreciate the fact that you've gone through something like that and you can see the funny side in it. But also B, it's like, don't take life so seriously,
For sure. Because your mum is religious, was it difficult to meet girls when you came to Australia?
I think it's not so much difficult. I was a very shy boy anyways growing up.
Okay.
I wasn't very public.
Okay.
I wasn't very outspoken or anything like that. So my first girlfriend would have been when I was maybe 18 years old or something, compared to my older brother, who his first girlfriend would have been when he was 14 or something, 15. He was a bad boy,
Okay.
And I was always like, man, I want to be like him. And then I was like, my voice, it only broke at a later, when I was maybe 17. So back when I was 14 or something, I want to be like him.
Damn.
That was my voice. But it wasn't so much harder for my mom to, my mom always wanted us to be in a relationship and get married, arrange married, be in a relationship once we were 18 and over.
Okay.
But even when we've hit 18 and over, she wanted us to get arranged marriage. She doesn't believe in this, because remember, we just moved from Africa to here, which is a different world. So her job, what she felt her job was to just make sure we have good upbringing. We don't bloody go to jail or anything like that, get in trouble with the law. We go to university. We didn't end up going to university, but we didn't go to jail. So it's a big win for her,
Okay.
And there's six
That's
of
the
us, man.
compromise.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
all a year, 2 years apart. But there was times where we would have house parties, for example. So we would slowly ease her into the Australian way of life.
Okay.
Right? So because for us, as soon as we step out of the house, we're immersed in the Australian culture.
Yes.
For her, she stays in the house, and then when she steps out, she goes into her community,
Yep.
church or Ethiopian gatherings, and it's all her culture. So when we come home, now we're dealing with this person that has authority over us, who's our mother,
Yeah.
but she's also very cultural, and we're we've just come from this world, and sometimes that world obviously follows you home. So, we would be like, oh, Mom, we want to have a party, and she'll go, what do you mean? We're like, oh, birthday party. And she'll go, okay, what do you mean? we'll go, we want to have a birthday party in the backyard. We want to have like house parties, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, it was very hard to convince her we wanted to have strangers over who are technically like our friends, but friends of friends.
Okay.
And then she said yes, because my mom is very loving. She lives for her children, right? Very loving. And so she always does her best by us. And so she goes, okay, you can have, but no drugs, no alcohol. We said, yeah, none of that will be happening, just music, and we'll just be standing around saying hello. She goes, okay. And then we had alcohol, everybody was drunk.
Was she there? Was she there?
She was in the kitchen making food, right?
Wow,
but
okay.
we would come into the kitchen and we would take the food and we'll take it outside. And we had R&B and hip hop music playing. Everybody's bumping and grinding. We were just like loose, right?
Well, surely she knew, or was she just like?
No,
like,
she didn't
surely...
know. She did, because we would come out. We'll be like, Moms, don't come outside because it's our friends. We don't want to be embarrassed. And Mom's very respectful like that, right? But there's limits to her. Right?
Okay.
So then eventually, as we were coming in and out to get the food, people, you can see the alcohol effects, right?
Sure, yeah.
So then she's like, oh no, this is not. And so she would come and open the curtains and she would see through the window and everyone's drinking and she would just like flip. You know?
And shut the party down?
Yeah, she would shut the party down. She would just be like, you out, you out, you out. Everyone's like, yeah, there's a crazy woman. That's my mum. You have to go.
Were there any repercussions for you? Or...
Yeah, you got a beating, man.
Oh, legit?
Yeah, legit. She will belt us.
Yeah,
Mum didn't care, man. She will belt you, you know.
Was it worth it? Would she beat the shit out of you?
The party was worth it.
Yeah.
Oh, we had so many good parties.
Yeah.
In our house. But Mum's like, she had to play both roles, you know, the father and the mother. And so when we needed to get belting, she would step into that role pretty good. Pretty good.
Was it a shoe or a belt?
Dude, she would use a cord.
A cord?
A cord.
Oh, like an extension cord?
Extension cord. She'll just wrap that up and she'll just whip you with one whip with that.
Oh, it sounds like an episode of The Simpsons.
You know when you get whipped and the voice leaves, it's like, It was one of those. You only needed one, and then she'd be like, yep, he's had enough.
Is it like the end of the extension cord with the plug on, like that? You being hit with the plug, or just the...
No, the plug.
Oh,
Can you imagine if it was the actual thick bit? No, that would knock you out. No, it was the plug. And I remember this one time, so my brother used to date this girl, and he brought her over, and this is how polite my mum is. He was in the room with his girlfriend, right, in his room.
Yeah.
And Mum obviously made food and stuff for them, and then she doesn't knock at her house. She's like, I'm not going to knock in my house. You shouldn't be doing anything in this house.
Okay.
Right? That I would not approve of. I've raised you better, you know that? It's a Christian house. So she opens this door, right? And my brother's in there with his girlfriend, and she's topless.
Oh.
Right? And he's got his face, like, planted on her chest.
Okay.
Right? And then my mom opens the door. He's like, they want food, you know, and everyone freaks out. And my brother's like, ah, and his girlfriend's like, ah, and my mom just freaks out. But even then, she was still so polite. She's the first thing that comes to her mind. She goes, my son good? To the girl. And the girl's so confused. She's like, what? And my brother's like, get out. And I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't know. And she just leaves.
That's incredible.
And then she's sitting on the couch and she's just like traumatized. Right? And you're like, Mom, I go, Mom, what's wrong? And she's like, oh, your brother, you know his girlfriend. Oh, your brother, you know his girlfriend. Just repeating over and over. And then I go to find out and I'm like, oh, this is not good. But this is easing her.
You make it out like it was part of the plan to ease her into Australian culture.
You know, some things just happen. Like she's got 6 children, and we're all 2 years apart. We're all going to be in that position where we're dating, and our partners are coming over, and obviously we're not trying to, you know, do anything we shouldn't be doing in our mum's house with our partners. But at the same time, it's like sometimes it's unplanned. You know.
Of course, yeah. You know, you got to get her ready for opening the door and just see her son's face and his girlfriend's tits.
I talk a lot about it, obviously, in my comedy shows as well. And my mum came to my comedy show because some people will go, oh, stop making fun of your mum. I'm like, dude, I'm sharing stories about her.
Right.
You know, and this is funny stuff that happened to her. And they're like, nah, it didn't. I'm like, Mum's right there. You can ask her. And Mum's laughing, going, it's so true. It's so true.
So she can laugh at herself as well, though.
Because
what a sweetheart.
Yeah, and it's also like she loves it when I do her mannerisms, you know.
Okay.
Her mannerisms, oh my God, dude.
Your mum lives in Perth?
She lives in Perth.
I so badly want to meet your mum.
Dude, she's a bit of a celebrity when she comes to my show, especially.
Oh, man.
When we came here, and single mom, 6 kids, they're like, go to Centrelink, and Centrelink will help you. They'll give you like 600 a fortnight.
Right.
And my mom, obviously coming from where we come from, which is, living on the streets and eating out of bins to survive, she doesn't believe in free handouts. There's no government that gave her free handouts,
So she thinks it's a scam?
She thinks it's a scam. So
Yeah.
we go to Centrelink, and she's like, we have to suss this thing out. And the lady, and I was translating, and I was only young, like 11, 12. I didn't speak English properly. And the lady goes, our young man told your mum we're going to give her $600 a fortnight.
Okay.
And I was like, hey, mum, this lady said she's going to give you $600 a fortnight. And my mum's like, check, ask her for what? I'm like, oh, mum wants to know for what? And the lady goes, oh, it's for the kids. And then I go, mum, it's for us. And my mom's like so upset. And she goes, no, the children are not for sale.
Oh my God.
That was our first Centrelink experience.
That
right?
is so innocent.
So then,
Fucking hell.
yeah. So then we go home, and she's like, holy shit, in this country.
Oh my God.
What kind of country is this? Like they try to buy you, Because in her head, it's like she just played all this trying to defend us and bring us to this nice country. Now they're trying to buy us.
It's that mixture of like, the root of that is really dark, but it's also really funny. What did you do before comedy?
I was working as a business banker for Bank West.
Okay.
Yeah, dude.
Did you like on the sales side?
I was level 4. So level 4 in the head office, you're pretty much like on the same par as a store manager.
Okay.
And I wrote home loans for private client managers from their folio to Bankwest's private clients. So probably up to like 2 million. That's the home loan that I would write. So you suit up and everything. And mum, man, she was so proud.
Yeah, I
My
was about
son,
to say.
bank
I was about to
manager.
say your mum would love that. Of
Dude,
course.
just telling the whole community, he's
Yeah.
bank manager. Don't worry, bank manager.
Yeah.
Now, and then I left to do comedy, and she's very supportive. But if her friends ask her, what does your son do now? He's a good boy. He's just a very good boy. He makes people laugh. He's a good boy.
That's great.
Darren from Audio Production here. It's kind of funny. My parents were similar. They were super proud of me when I was kicking goals at my corporate job. But when I quit and was trying a whole bunch of different things that at face value didn't seem as impressive as my big boy corporate role, they were very supportive, but understandably and noticeably concerned.
What was it that made you go, I'm going to make the leap from corporate and selling wallets to this? What happened?
Couple things. I mean, it was a crisis.
What was
But
the crisis?
I'd been wanting to.
What do you mean crisis? Personal or?
Personal crisis.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of good stuff comes from personal crisis.
100%.
For me, at that time, and it's stuff I'd been wanting to do for a while, but the catalyst was I got out of like a 2-year relationship.
Dude, this is why I was telling Michael Khan that we have so much in common. Okay, so you got out of a relationship?
And it was a relationship initially that I wanted to get out of, and then I really didn't want to get out of, and then she ended it, and I was devastated for it full on like crushed me. When you go through something like that, and I know you can relate to this because I think yours was like a 10-year relationship, you forget some of like that basic stuff about you, like you like, do you know what I mean? Like the foundational stuff, which is annoying, but at the same time it means, all right, well, we have to rebuild, and you can rebuild through personal development or like whatever tools you have available to you at the time. And there's also a lack of fear to pursue things that you might have previously had a level of fear to.
Spot on.
Yeah, and that's a big one. The fear thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then
it's crazy. So yeah, mine was, I was working in the bank. I was with her for 9 years, and then on the 9th year I asked her to marry me.
Right.
So then we were together for 1 year in the bank.
Right.
And then on the 10th year she broke up with me, and never saw it coming.
Okay.
Never imagined I would be in this position. And then not long after that, she went on holidays, and she posted a picture of her on another guy's back, and the caption read, "Just found my soulmate." Finally found my soulmate.
Wow.
That's what the caption read. And you know, when someone breaks up with you, you stalk them on their Facebook. So I went on her Facebook and had a look, and I saw that, and I was devastated, right? And then I was like, okay, I'm going to be successful, because I looked up the dude and it said doctor in Melbourne, right? So I'm like, no, this is with someone much more successful. God damn it, I'm gonna go be successful, right? So I was on that path of like no fear, right?
Sure.
And personal development, and I said, all right, well, what do I want to do? I said, cool, I want to be the CEO of this bank, right? Now that's ridiculous, because I'm like nowhere near a CEO position, right?
Okay.
Don't have a uni qualification, just got a U12 degree from like a place like Footscray High, but in Perth, right?
Okay.
And I was like, I'm going to be successful. Went on this self-development path, and in there it asked to get mentors, and I said, I want to be the CEO. So it said, if you get someone to mentor you that are in a position that you want to be at. So I'm like, oh yeah, CEO of BankQuest, you know? So I sent him an email 8 p.m. at night, because I had access.
Sure.
Right? Everyone has access, but you don't bloody email the CEO. So I sent him an email saying, I want to catch up, and I've got some questions for him. And he replied the next day, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. Everyone freaked out. Even I freaked out. My boss was like, is everything all right? She thought I was about to be a whistleblower. I'm like, no, I'm going through this journey, and I just really need to sit down with him and have a chat. I've got questions. So when we sat down, we're having this conversation, and he was amazing, and I was asking him more questions, and he was like, wow, you know? He's like, Joe, can I just say, like, you've got a bright future in the bank, and I think you're going to go far. You're very ambitious. I like that. He goes, this is a position I think you should apply for. And I applied for a higher position, and I got it, right? And he's like, he asked me what my motivation was. He said, you want to be the CEO? I said, yeah, someday I want to be the CEO. He goes, wow, you will get there. And he asked me my motivation, and I said, it's because I want to be successful.
Okay.
You know? And then when he left, I didn't have the heart to tell him. It's because I want to fire my ex. Once I become the CEO, I'm like, you're fired. You know?
So
That's the state of mind I was in.
No,
man.
but
chaos and all over.
But the thing is, like, someone who hasn't, it doesn't actually have to be a breakup. That's why I used the word crisis before. It can be anything. It can be just like some sort of situation that like smacks you on your ass. It's crucial to no, I can't say crucial, but in my experience, it has been crucial to have some sort of like chip on your shoulder.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, I feel like I always think of like a psychologist looking in going, not sure if that's the most healthy way to tackle something or to like get over something. But at the same time, it gets you out of the funk that you're in.
Yeah.
I was in a very like shitty little funk. I needed something as a catalyst. And you can process it and figure it out later. I mean, that's like on a personal level, that's what I'm doing with therapy and stuff years later. But like, to get you out of that funk and get you some sort of like confidence momentum moving out of it, give me a chip on the shoulder. And like, so it was that relationship.
Driver.
And I also had like a really initially very helpful manager, but then she turned into like real like micromanager, and like not believing in me sort of thing. So I had all these little things that just kind of made me go, all right, I'm gonna show these fuckers.
You know what it is?
It sounds like it's similar for you.
Yeah, and you know, when you do personal development, a lot of the message in there says, you know, we all have a purpose, we all have a path, and if you don't do what you're supposed to do, right, or what makes you happy, what you believe, you know, you need to do your purpose, then life will find a way to make it so uncomfortable for you so that you move on from that position. So I guess you hating your job, your boss being micromanaging you to the point where it's uncomfortable, and you just said, that's it, I'm leaving. That's all part of the process to be here.
Exactly,
you know?
right.
And so you look back and it makes sense, but at the time, you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is mayhem.
All of that stuff that happened, I don't think I would like... I really like my lifestyle now. I don't think I would have this now if it wasn't for some of that like really shitty, contextual to me, shitty stuff that happened.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I know now you're in love.
Dude, I'm in love. Oh my God.
Wait, how long have you been together?
Like 7 months.
Have you used the love word, or am I jumping?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay,
I called her Mrs. White on social media, and everyone was like, congrats on your engagement. I was like, whoa. This is what we call her in comedy clubs when she comes with me. Everyone's like, Mrs. White is here. But she's just so amazing, man. And you know what? Like, I don't know if you're in love at the moment or if you've met someone, but you will. And I didn't think that I would ever be in this position again. And I'm
Right.
still cautious about what if this one plays that knock-knock game with me again.
Of
You know,
course.
knock-knock who's there. Not me, see you later. You know? So I'm always like a bit cautious. But this one here, she's so lovely, man. She sends me
man.
like messages saying, I believe in you, you can do it. She's not materialistic. And she's into personal development, you know. And she's so different. Like she was adopted from Ethiopia. Right?
Okay.
By a white Australian family and raised in Bustleton, Perth.
Okay.
So it's Bustleton, Perth is like Frankston here. So
Okay.
I always say she's gone from one trauma to another. But she's just so lovely, man. And we talk on the phone. Very, very nurturing, very hard worker. And she's like, I'll move to Melbourne in a heartbeat for you if you want me to move there.
Wow.
And I'm like, ease up, buddy.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, ease up. I gotta...
That's magic, man. I'm very happy for you, and I'm happy for you because contextually, I have no idea what it would be like coming out of a 9-10 year relationship and then trying to.
Painful, man.
Well,
God.
it sounds like on a macro level, you then focused on your work and your career stuff, and then that's like your number one. To then, it's not a matter of managing; it's a matter of taking on the responsibility of another relationship, because your work is a relationship. It very much is, and then an emotional, like loving kind of relationship. That's terrifying.
Terrifying.
On a personal level, at the beginning of my break, I hadn't been on dates for like 4 years. I'd been on maybe like 5 dates in like 4 years. I'd see
Since this Uber ride show?
maybe that's an exaggeration.
I've seen a few of the beautiful women that come in this Uber.
Hold on.
And I've seen the way you give some of them the goodbye hugs. I'm like, he's seen her again.
No.
He's definitely seen her
First of all, I'd never date a passenger. Anybody who's ever been in my videos, I've never pursued.
Really?
No.
Why
ever.
did you look away when you said
I
that?
did it. I was looking at you right in the eyes.
No, you're right.
No. So like, I mean, that was a rule that I made earlier on. But like, the actual process of like, you know, looking for a girlfriend or like going on dates and stuff, I've neglected it to such a point where I just such a like stereotypical, like I just never made myself emotionally available. But then at the beginning of my break, I'm like, I'm gonna go on some dates.
Yeah.
Met this girl. I'm like, okay.
Let me ask you this, because I find the secret to my match with this girl, because I've dated a couple after my long-term relationship, but it never really matched. It was just a quick thing, you know. But with this one here, I made sure our values were aligned. You know, like our mental state of mind was like I love personal development, and I couldn't be with anyone who thought like, oh, what's all that personal development or quotes, you know, all that shit. Just come relax and watch Netflix with me.
Yes.
You know, I could never imagine being with someone like that. And in the past, that's how I was. Chill on the couch, watch Netflix, watch the news and be held like captivated by it. And then go to bed, get up, go to work, come back, do the same thing. I couldn't imagine doing that now, right?
Neither.
Yeah.
So one of the things, one of the things that intrigues me about her is like, we align on a lot of like macro sort of things like values. So whether it's around like she's very ambitious or like have a level of drive to achieve like things, see the world in like conceptually in a very similar way.
Yeah.
But she doesn't give a shit about social media. She's an archaeologist.
Okay.
And it's so interesting to me because girls that I've pursued beforehand have always been, you know, not necessarily like fans.
Yeah.
But like
I've seen your work online.
they might have seen bits and pieces of it and they go, oh, that's cool, he's got a following. So she doesn't give a shit about that. And that's intriguing because it's like what I bring to the relationship is purely me. There's no YouTube Darren. It's like I have to be myself.
Yeah.
And that's refreshing for me at least.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
So yeah, I mean, look, 7-ish weeks in, we'll see. But
And
like,
is she supportive of what you do?
extremely supportive and like very like caring and comforting around that stuff and very interested in it.
Yeah.
But she doesn't care about social media. She
Oh,
doesn't
dude,
have, like she
that's
deleted
beautiful.
her Instagram account and all that kind of stuff. It's not important to her. But yeah, it's interesting. Do you live here now? What's your living situation?
I'm here now, and I was gonna go back end of May.
Okay.
But I may end up staying, and I have to make some phone calls, let the girlfriend know, the mum know, and some of the bookers know.
How come you want to stay?
Dude, I just feel like I'm so close to cracking Melbourne comedy scene and having that next progress that I've worked, 2-3 years to achieve. And so now that I'm in love, if I go back to Perth and spend more time there, I feel like Melbourne will forget about me.
Sure.
And I feel like I've done injustice to my grind.
Fair.
You know?
Fair.
Just because I'm falling in love, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to cuddle up and just be all lovey-dovey, I'm like, I got to stay real to my purpose.
Yeah, I think I respect that so much. Because I could see that happen. Not necessarily, like, I can't speak for you, but I can see that just like in the last couple of weeks. It's like the closer you get to somebody.
Yeah. Just want to spend every day with them,
Yeah, it's nice. But you got to respect your own ambitions.
Yeah. Because then it's what makes you happy. And in the moment you're like, something happens in that relationship and it's not always going to be perfect. And then you'll start to have resentment and go, oh, you know what, my thing is not going well. And you're sad now and you don't know why, but it's because you've given more attention to the relationship instead of finding a balance.
Yes.
Or doing your own thing and somehow, meeting that person halfway. When I do this, it looks like I don't have a hair on top, so I'm going to do that.
I've got a lot of respect for Joe. He embodies the fight and drive that I believe to be the most divine nature of the human spirit, and he communicates it all through the most beautiful language, comedy. Catch you, man.
Take care, man.
Thank you for this.